Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I'm Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, and thank you for stopping by. All right, guys, on this episode of Bullet Points this morning, we are going to talk about an extremely basic understanding of a broken promise. Now, if you go down this gun control, if you go down the concealed carry arguments, if you go down the permitting system, it all comes back to a broken promise. And this is incredibly important because the broken promise is all about a policy outcome, not about a constitutional guaranteed right. This is incredibly important to understand because this is where the disconnect is existing. If you boil it all down, this is what happens from the left perspective and why they're losing. This is why the New York Supreme Court case is coming out pretty quickly. That's why we are gaining rights back from their authoritarian laws. This is really important to understand because when you get to the root of this, you start to see the failure of a broader based policy, not just one concealed carry law. Very, very important to understand that root principle, but that's what we're going to dive into. Everything is linked in the description box below. I want to walk you through one of our sponsors made this video possible, and then we're going to hit it on the other side. Now, in today's increasingly dangerous environment, arming yourself responsibly and effectively is paramount in defending yourself and those that you love. Selecting a holster is an important piece of embracing your Second Amendment rights, and LAS concealment is here for precisely that purpose. With leading designs inside and outside the waistband options, LAS concealment has the right solution for you. Check them out in the link in the description box below, and thank you so much to LAS Concealment for making this video possible. Now, what we're going to look at, guys, is an article from the Brennan Center of Justice. This is a left-wing think tank. Again, it goes back to that broken promise and the kernel where their policy cannot deliver what they're promising. Okay? After abortion, will the justices turn to concealed carry laws? Well, they're already going to turn to concealed carry laws. The case has already been heard. It's kind of a hyperbolic statement. But anyway, the justices' understanding of the Second Amendment is at odds with history and public safety. Their job is not to interpret public safety. Their job is to interpret the Constitution and to keep legislatures in check from growing rogue, which would be in conflict of the Constitution, which is what they're doing because New York and other blue cities have conflicted with the Constitution. That's why the judicial system exists. That checks and balances is happening and the left does not like it. That's what we're seeing, all right? Let's keep going because we're going to get to that broken promise here in a second. Another Supreme Court decision may soon send shockwaves. It's the first time the justices will rule on the Second Amendment since 2010. Now it's talking about Heller, okay? The Supreme Court has not made a major Second Amendment ruling since 2010. Meanwhile, hundreds of judges around the country developed a robust approach to the Second Amendment, as my Brennan Center colleague Eric Rubin has documented. Yes, they have ruled. It is an individual right, but like other individual rights, there can be restrictions based on society's needs, such as public safety. I don't agree with that statement, and honestly, a lot of judicial views don't either. The judges borrowed an approach from the First Amendment known as tiered scrutiny. The vast majority of gun laws were upheld. So what he's saying here is the reason that all these gun laws, for example, the Ninth Circuit, they can uphold all these gun laws because of tiered scrutiny, even though it says in the Second Amendment shall not be infringed. Very interesting. That's a pretty declarative statement. But that doesn't stop them from using tiered scrutiny. And now we're getting into the promise, okay? Keep in mind, the promise from these gun controllers, from the blue cities, from the blue states, it's all about guns have no place in our society. That's something that they said. This is their perspective. Guns have no place in our society. No individual should have the right to conceal carry because it conflicts with public safety. And any idea that we're going to have guns on our streets is terrible. The police and everyone in the state level will prohibit gun use, so there will be no guns at all, so there's no reason to protect yourself because the police will do it. That's the stance. That's the promise. However, criminals are going to criminal. They have the guns anyway, and they have the advantage because the law-abiding population abides by the laws, and they don't have the firearms to defend themselves, but the criminals do. That's the broken promise in a nutshell. Okay? That's where we're getting into. Let's keep going. Now, there's a new Supreme Court supermajority of 6 justices. The NRA is bankrupt and discredited, but its political power lives on in lifetime tenured justices, many of whom the organization pushed into power, and this case is the result. Talking about the Bruen case. This is where we get right down to the nut. At the oral argument, Justice Samuel Alito asked New York State's lawyer a startling question. Makes sense to me, but he says startling. Quote, "There are a lot of armed people on the streets of New York and in the subways late at night right now, aren't there?" Alito asked, or added. All these people with illegal guns, they're on the subway, walking around the streets, but ordinary, hardworking, law-abiding people, no, they can't be armed. Perfectly stated. Okay? Well, this is what they come back with. Again, this is a left-wing think tank. The idea that ordinary, hardworking, law-abiding people should show up armed on a subway or a college campus, or for that matter a city street, is utterly at odds with the real world and real life as real people actually live it. But this court, drenched in dogma and originalist faux history, may force that fact on cities across the country. There is no faux history. It says shall not be infringed. You are infringing upon the Second Amendment and you're failing in the promise that you are providing. Okay? The whole concept here of the idea that citizens should be able to defend themselves is at odds with real world and real life as real people actually live it. The criminals have guns and they have the advantage over people who don't. So why are you making the sheep ready to be sheared by a wolf? Because you don't like firearms. And that's the really important piece. The left cities are failing the promise, and that's why they're getting this pushback. Bruen may be a bigger case than Heller. Only a handful of American cities had DC-style bans on handguns inside the owner's home, so the Heller decision didn't touch most of the country. Exactly like this is going to happen. Okay? In contrast, 8 heavily populated states have concealed carry laws similar to the one at issue at Bruen. If the court strikes down New York's law, roughly 1/4 of Americans can expect to interact with people carrying deadly weapons. The point here is, you've infringed upon the rights guaranteed in the Constitution. You can say it's going to impact 25% of the population. You can say Heller was not that big of a deal, even though it was a huge deal. But the point is, if you had not infringed upon the population, upon the rights of the population, you would not be at a point where everything is going to be revoked because the checks and balances are going to check you. And that's the beauty of our system, and that's why our guaranteed rights are enshrined in the Bill of Rights. Thank you so much for listening. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I will see you at the 9 p.m. segment tonight. I'm Braden. See you later.